Welcome to the Good Girls Society, the podcast where we, Jen and Sass, talk about all things bookish, lifestyle, and navigating life in your 30s. Make sure to give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at good.girls.pod, and be sure to follow us here on all streaming services so you can listen to our latest episodes.
On today's episode, we discuss the unhinged horror Maeve Fly by CJ Leede. But before we get into the book, how's life, Jen? Tell me what's been going on.
Well, May was a very busy month for me. I was gone literally every weekend. I had one weekend that I wasn't, and that was Mother's Day weekend, but then I just spent it with my mom. So I was pretty much gone that weekend too.
I love that.
And then this month is my birthday. So June 17th is my birthday. So right after we post this.
Oh, so everybody go and fucking say happy birthday to Jen, or I'm coming for you next.
Well, don't do that. We need listeners. Don't come for that.
Love you guys.
We need people to listen. So for my birthday, listen to all the episodes. Thanks.
Perfect.
What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I haven't been as busy as you, but I have been trying to get back out there. May was kind of a transformative month for me. You know, a lot went down and I decided that I wanted to tap back into my spirituality and sort of like get back into some witchy stuff. So I've been doing spell work again. I've been working on just like making sure that my energy is protected and that I'm happy, because I feel like sometimes people just misconstrue things. So it's easy for people to misconstrue what I mean and who I am. I think as well because I'm an Australian, I'm just very brash and I come across as like probably a bit meaner than I actually am. So
as a Philadelphian, I understand.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I had never felt the effects of being an Australian in a more international space, whereas now I kind of understand that maybe we do come across as a lot. But yeah, I'm just trying to protect my peace and look after myself and just like mentally feel good. So that's really what my focus was in May. I also got to see my mom and my stepdad. We all went and travelled to Queensland. So I live in Victoria, my parents live in WA, so we all flew up to a warmer state and had a nice little weekend together. What else did I do? I've actually done a lot. I've been really busy. And I've been really busy with work too. So work's been
You said you weren't. Now here you are.
Like work was insane this month, and like looking back, like actually having the time to reflect on it, I'm like, damn, I did so much. I came up with like this really amazing initiative that's now being pushed to our company. So yeah, it's been a really fun, good month. Have done lots.
It's awesome.
Yeah, really, really good.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm happy. So we'll get into the synopsis. So, a provocative and unforgettable debut that is a blood-soaked love letter to Los Angeles and a gleeful send-up to iconic horror villains, Maeve Fly will thrill fans of slashers and the macro... How do you say that word? Macabre? I don't even know. Macabre.
Macabre.
Macabre. Alright, sorry guys. Just ignore me. By day, Maeve Fly works at the happiest place in the world as every child's favourite ice princess, which I loved, by the way.
Ice princess. Yeah, I wonder who that is.
We can't say it.
We can't say. We'll get shut down.
By the neon night glow of the Sunset Strip, Maeve haunts the dive bars with a drink in one hand and a book in the other, imitating her misanthropic literary heroes. Oh my god, try saying that 5 times really fast.
No.
But when Gideon Green, her best friend's brother, moves to town, he awakens something dangerous within her, and the world she knows suddenly shifts beneath her feet. Untethered, Maeve ditches her disconnected act and tries on a new persona, a bolder, bloodier one, inspired by the pages of American Psycho. Step aside, Patrick Bateman. It's Maeve's turn with the knife.
Yeah.
That really was the synopsis, and I think that kind of gives you a pretty good insight into like what the book is really. Like at its core, we're really seeing a more femme version of American Psycho.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. so much. There's a quote, and I don't want to get too much into it right now because I know we're going to talk about it. But let me find the quote because I loved it so much. She talks about so I don't know the exact quote because I didn't write it down because, ADHD me. But she says about how when men do horrible things, it's understandable. But when women do it, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that quote stuck with me because it's so true.
Yeah.
It's like if men kill people, normal. Like, it's almost like we just accept it. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it makes sense that, especially like a white man, like, okay, yeah, he killed someone. It makes sense. That guy, okay. But like a woman does it, and it's like, what? She did that? No, no way. There's no way she did that. Really? Like,
Yeah.
and so the fact that this whole book is about that, I'm like, give it to me. I need more. I'm like fiending for it. Like, I loved it so much.
Oh, I love that you loved it that much. That's sick. I
You're
would
right. It is sick and twisted, and my head is messed up. I know.
You're a sick individual.
I just love horror so much. So this was like giving for me.
It was fucking serving. I
Yes.
just loved the general tone of the book. Like, I have never been to Los Angeles, but well, I mean, I have in the airport, guys, for 4 hours. Wild, I know.
Okay, when I went, I cried and sobbed uncontrollably because I was so disappointed. So,
but I think, like, a lot of pop culture is Los Angeles centric, so I feel like I kind of know about the city, and I've watched a lot of documentaries. But I found the way that Maeve loved her city so much, but in such a weird way. Like, she knew it was disgusting and fucked up and gross, and she knew there was an undercurrent of just like sinister vibes in this like neon desert town. But I loved how much she loved her world. Like, even though she was this deranged psychopath, she also loved everything she did. She loved her job. I'm sure we'll get into it when we get into the characters, but I loved the way this book was described. I loved the vibe of it. I think it had a great general, I go for vibes. When it comes to a book with vibes,
yeah.
I love a vibe.
Oh,
so I think
yeah.
we've got that.
Absolutely. So our characters, we start off with Maeve, our main character. She is the ice queen at the theme park. Our not named character park that we can't say out loud or else we'll get canceled.
What can we say that like explains it? Like, the happiest place in the world.
Yeah. Well, we can say names like Cinderella and Snow White because those are grim fairy tales. Yeah. So it is a park that has those characters, including the Ice Queen. Wink, wink. She works there as the Ice Queen, and she loves it. And I think that's so funny because it's such a juxtaposition to the deeply disturbed version of her that she keeps hidden away.
Yeah.
I also love that she is so obsessed with horror and Halloween and just like the fucked up literature that I am also obsessed with. So it's great. Like, I love the fact that she is so obsessed with Halloween and the like dark, dirty books.
Yeah.
Like, give it to me.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? She would love Petite Mort, and I am here for it.
You should give it to her.
Maeve is my girl. Okay?
Petite Mort fan.
She would be a Petite Mort fan.
I honestly felt so sorry for Maeve throughout the whole book. Like, I'm not sure if I was supposed to. I'm an empath. No, I'm not. I'd never say that about myself. But I constantly have this.
No, you're autistic. It's part of who you are.
I'm just an autistic fuck. I felt so sorry for her because there's so much of her life that she did love and she did enjoy, and she was, very much in her ways, and she had ways of doing things, and then seeing changes happen really threw her off the rails of her life. Like, she saw her life through this incredibly strange lens. But sorry, I've lost my train of thought. She saw her life through a really strange lens, but she also loved everything about her life. Like, she loved being the Ice Queen. She actually even says in the book that she loved all of the kids and all the customers who constantly said she was great at her job and helped them a lot. Like, it was such a juxtaposition between, this person who's becoming unhinged and absolutely going insane, who loves their life and loves their city and loves their best friend, and I found it so funny. And
it really was, though.
It was. And I really loved how much she loved her city. Like, the way she described the city just made this book what it was. Like, it made it so beautiful. Like, who knows if it was really meant to be that beautiful, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Los Angeles is not beautiful. I don't care what anyone says. I hated Los Angeles. I cried. I was so disappointed. So New York City is my favorite city. I love New York City. I know most people hate it. I love it. And I went to LA thinking it was, well, because it's dirty. I mean, there are pieces of it that's dirty. Most of it's dirty, let's be honest. But I went to LA. I was like 12. And I just had this vision that it was going to be just like New York. And I went there and I cried and cried. I was so disappointed. It was like disgusting. My grandma had to take me to like Tiffany's and Rodeo Drive to like just make me feel better because I was so disappointed and broken.
I hated it so much.
So like when she describes like the dirtiness of LA, I'm like, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I love it.
I'm like, I don't see the beautiful part you're describing, but the dirtiness, I get it. It makes sense. Is there anything else you want to say about Maeve?
I think I'm a big fan of American Psycho, and I don't really get the same vibes from Maeve as I do from Patrick Bateman. Like, I did not find them similar, which I would say is a good thing. And I think if people were to liken this book too much to American Psycho, they're going to set themselves up for failure, because she's not. And this comes through a very feminist scope at the start. Not really. I don't think at first I was like, why are people calling this like a feminist book? But then you get into the nitty gritties of it and you get to the end of this book and you're like, okay. So I think don't go into this book thinking that you're about to get Patrick Bateman as a woman. Like, there are these parts about Maeve, like the fact that she loves Halloween and she'll quote songs. She'll quote things about songs throughout the book, like Patrick does. But I honestly wouldn't liken them to each other at all, except viral.
So I don't want to get too much into it now because I'll get into it when we talk about plot. But I did see a lot of similarities, not necessarily between like her and Patrick, but between the story itself. Like the way the story was set up. Not necessarily the storyline, but like the way the story was set up.
Yeah, for sure.
Because American Psycho, I'm going to get too much into it. We're going to have to come back. I will literally go on a rant about American Psycho, and you know me in horror, and so it's going to have to wait till plot. So I'm going to stop myself here because I will never stop. So Kate is her best friend. She is an up-and-coming actress, and she basically is just sleeping her way around Hollywood in hopes of getting a movie deal, which is really sad because she really wants it, and you can tell that she really, really wants it, but then she's meeting all these, like, sleazeball directors that are just like, you know what? I'm gonna take advantage of you and see if I can get my way, and they usually do.
Yeah.
And it's sad because I think at one point she's even kind of getting like abused by the one. And it just shows that like dark side of Hollywood, and a lot of us don't even think about that on the regular, because that is there, and that is something that really should be exposed more than it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had like the Me Too movement, which had all of these female actresses coming out and speaking against, we won't say his name on here because it's a bit triggering, but, you know, I think it kind of delves into that idea that women need to sleep their way to the top to become successful. And I think that's really sad. And you can see in Maeve's inner monologue how sad she feels for Kate. Like, she really loves Kate and respects her, which, again, is such an interesting juxtaposition, because at the beginning of the book, she's taking down, a stay-at-home mum. And, like, the way she feels about Kate is obviously, it's an interesting dynamic, I think, that she loves her so much. You wouldn't expect it, but I like that. I like that about her.
Yeah.
It makes her endearing.
She's very loyal. Like, she picks her people and she sticks with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that too.
Absolutely. So then we get Gideon. Mr. Gideon himself. He is Kate's hot hockey player. You know, that just gave this book an extra bonus for me, Mr. Hockey Player. Kate's hot hockey player brother. And he has an immediate love for Maeve. And he's also a secret serial killer.
Love you, Gideon. I knew as soon as I read that he was a hockey player, I was like, now I know why Jen loves this book.
This book literally has everything. This book, I think, was specifically made for me.
Legitimately. Okay? Yeah.
I think somebody said, I'm going to write a book just for Jen, and I'm going to call it Maeve Fly.
Should have called it.
It's got horror. It's got hockey. It's got Disney. It's got all of the things I love.
I really, I felt off about Gideon from the get-go. I was like, what the fuck is your problem? Like, the entire time. I was like, what's your damage? Like, what is wrong with you? I knew there was something wrong with him from the very start. But I loved the way that Maeve, like, all of these, it was like a perfect storm of shit that happened around Maeve. And all of these things happening to her just obviously, like, started this chaos of her delving into chaos and her life becoming insane. But I feel like Gideon was one of the big factors in her kind of starting to lose it a lot more. And I liked that. I liked his character for what it did for the plot.
Absolutely. It was great. I loved it. So good. And then you give me like romance scenes on a hockey rink, and I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah. That was a lot.
Anything on an ice rink, I am here for.
I love it.
I loved it. Our last big character is Maeve's grandmother. She is the star of the show, even though she's not really conscious for any of this. She is our old Hollywood royalty. So she really is the star of the show because she is Maeve's everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I really struggled with their relationship. I think Maeve's grandmother really groomed her. Like, like this awful human being, to be honest. But like, Maeve obviously came from, we're not going to call it a tragic backstory, but you know, she didn't have a good life, and then she came to live with her grandma. Right. That was her everything. Like, this was the person who showed her how the world worked. And I think she sounded like a really cruel, awful person, but at the same time, so interesting.
Right.
What a strange person to put on such a pedestal, because she's like this old Hollywood royalty who just fucked her up, basically.
She really, really did.
Awful.
And like, can you imagine seeing like your grandmother like half naked in like an ad at the bar?
I would be like, can you take that down? I
Like, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
But she's over there like, yeah, that's my grandmother.
Really proud of that.
Really proud of that one. Although, let's be honest, I probably would be too. I'd be like, hey, that's my grandma. Did you know that? I'm related to that.
That one up there with the really nice rack, that's my nana.
We have the same eyes. Same tits. That's me.
My titties. I love that for you. I hope that you don't have the same titties as your grandma. But you know.
No, mine are much larger. We don't know where mine came from, let's be honest.
I feel like my nana is like the same proportion as me, like this little thing with tiny little legs, big tits. Like, thanks, Nana. Thanks so much.
No. All right. Before we get on a tangent, what do you rate the characters?
You know what? I think that the characters were great. I'm probably going to give them like I want to say a 4. I really enjoyed the characters.
Okay. I'm going 5 because, you know, I love them all.
Yeah, understandable. Okay.
Loved it.
Let's get into the plot. So the premises of this book feels murky when you start reading it. I won't lie. I didn't really know. Listen, if you don't know by now, I go into a lot of books very blind because I don't really have triggers and I like to be surprised. So when I started reading this book, I really was like, what the fuck am I reading? Like, very like whimsical and strange and fantastical. Maeve's just very odd. This book is marketed as a feminist version of American Psycho. Like, it really is. Everything that I've seen about this promoted, so you guys know, again, I always go back and look at reviews after I've read a book because I don't really like seeing before. But a lot of people really push and market this as an American Psycho. The first part of the book is discovering Maeve's deep and unsettling psyche. Like, you really are getting to know Maeve, and I think had I known that, maybe I would have enjoyed it a bit more, but because I was kind of like, what the fuck am I reading? I did find it a bit hard and a bit jarring at first. And while this is happening, we get to look into her egg fetish. Like, what
Loved
the fuck?
it. Like, I was waiting for you to get to it.
Have you ever heard of an egg fetish before? Because I personally haven't. Like, obviously everyone's got their thing, right? Don't yuck someone's yum. But an egg fetish was a weird one. So she's got a book. She's really like theorizing how she's going to put an egg inside of herself and not let it crack. But she also does want it to crack because she wants it to ooze out of it. Like, girl, what the fuck?
It has to be cracked in the most perfect way possible so that it oozes out perfectly.
Yeah.
But you know what? You can't tell me that after you read that, though, that you weren't curious about it.
I have to say, like, I like the idea of the soft-boiled one, but I don't think I'd want, like, a hard fucking egg in my vagina.
No, like, I don't want it in me. But I'm really curious to know how it, like, I'm really curious to, like, watch it now. Like, I want to watch a video of how it would work.
I feel like a soft-boiled egg would be fine. I wouldn't feel very offended by that. I think it would be okay. But also, what do I know? I'm not shoving an egg in my vagina. It's not happening.
No, I'm not putting any of that up in me, no. Because I just think eggshells and that would be weird. But like, I would be... This
is like the fucking ice cream in fucking Busher and Black Bear. Like, this is how I feel about eggs now. I cracked some this morning and I was like... Disgusting.
David, authors and ruining food.
Honestly, like, what is safe at this point? What's safe?
Nothing's safe.
Nothing is safe. So we see Maeve working at the park with Kate. We see her angst as she watches her grandmother deteriorate in palliative care. And then we meet Gideon. And I've said here, Gideon.
Gideon.
like, you know what? Gideon gave off, like, at first I was like, oh, this is like Nate Hawkins, but like a bit scarier and a bit older. That's the vibe I got. Like, just a goofy, sporty guy. Like, he was just a guy who was really ripped. His job was hockey.
Yeah.
He didn't really
His job was hockey.
But Kate's brother Gideon twists this story into something undoubtedly darker with his sinister undercurrents. So I felt like he really was the instigator of everything changing. The whole story really turned a lot darker as soon as he came into the picture. And I felt like my hackles raised as soon as I met him. I found him really unlikable. I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're a himbo, but you're not. There's something wrong with you. And he really knew who Maeve was from the start. He knew exactly who she was. She knew jack shit about him. Like, she had no idea. While Maeve is exploring her unwanted sexual feelings for Gideon, her grandmother has to come off life support, and this is when we experience the first murder. So Maeve doesn't want her grandmother to come off life support, so she kills the carer.
The carer. The caretaker.
You know, like the carer. Maybe that's an Australian thing. Sorry. The caretaker. The palliative caretaker, whatever. I actually found the first murder kind of funny. Is that really bad?
No, I thought it was hilarious.
I thought it was super campy, so funny. Maeve ends up stringing the bones above her fucking front door, like as Halloween.
A Halloween decoration. And then the cops come up and she's like covered in blood, and they like don't even like, it like doesn't even faze the cops. And I'm like, you're looking for somebody and she's smothered in blood, hanging bones, and you're like, oh, did you see this person? Like, you no clue.
It was wild. But yeah, I found the murder parts kind of funny. I have never read a horror like this before. Like, I've never read something that's specifically horror. So to have that kind of reaction tells me maybe I do like horror. Like, I love horror movies, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just laughing.
No, not at all. As well as the relationship between Maeve and wait, hold on. Okay, yeah, no. As well as the relationship between Maeve and Gideon, we also begin to see Kate's career rocket into stardom as she sleeps her way into a big movie role. I really enjoyed the desperation and patheticness of Kate.
Patheticness. Don't hold it back at all, Sass. Just let it all out there.
She was very transparent in her motives, and I enjoyed that Maeve found her endearing and spent a lot of the book defending her friend's behaviour, even through inner monologues. So I really did enjoy, because you know what? It made them human. And it made, even though the story was so out of control and so wild, these moments where Maeve humanizes her friends, and they are just average fucking people. Like, of course you're going to try and sleep your way to the top to get millions of dollars. I get it, you know?
Yeah, I do what you gotta do.
Yeah, would I do it? No, but I get it. Like, I understand. So I really enjoyed how human these characters were. So much like American Psycho, this storyline descends into absolute chaos, with Maeve going on a killing spree, and the bloody gore of this book truly had me gagging. I actually found this wasn't the gore, but this was one of the sex scenes when she yanked out his tooth.
Meanwhile, I'm like, no. Did you really?
Oh,
that was on the ice. That was the ice rink scene.
Disgusting. Absolutely foul.
Oh no, I was living for it.
Oh, I hated it. I had to put the book
I was
down.
living.
I had to put the book down. I was like, okay.
I was living because I was like, I was more disgusted by the fact that she was having sex with him while his tooth looked like that. So when she pulled it out, I was like, hell yeah, girl.
No, they're having sex and like kissing it. I was like, I was grossed out. Teeth.
Right. I don't like teeth, so I was more grossed out that she was kissing the messed up tooth. I would much rather her take it out.
Oh, it was disgusting. It was disgusting. So I really, I'd
rather kiss the bloody mouth than the messed up tooth.
I'm not really a big fan of gore. I do like slashes, like I like 80s slashes and stuff, so I found this is sort of when it was more on that camp side, but when we got I found that tooth bit just so, it was so disgusting. It was gross. I'm gonna say I don't think that there were that many similarities between Maeve and Patrick Bateman. Like I've said it before, Patrick Bateman is obsessed with sexual violence, and while Maeve has sex with someone and rips out his tooth, I don't think it's the same level of violence against women. It's more of a general violence against the world that Maeve has. And I feel like Maeve's violence feels justified. Like, even though I obviously don't condone murder, guys, I'm obviously not saying women's murder is justified rather than men's. I'm saying I felt like Maeve's descent into madness didn't feel anything like Patrick's, in the sense that Patrick really didn't have a motive. Like, besides being jealous of his work friends and, like, being a fucking lunatic, Maeve was losing her parents. She was getting feelings for someone that she didn't understand. She was losing her job. Like, there was so many things that I think led to Maeve's descent into absolute fucking chaos.
Yeah. So, for me, with American Psycho, I think it's more of the style of it than the actual, like, connections to the plot.
Yeah.
So, like, you know how in American Psycho, it starts off where, like, the whole beginning of it, you have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
You just, same thing here. You have what the heck is happening in the beginning of this book? You know, like you said it yourself. You didn't know what was going on. You didn't read anything up. Like, I'm weird in the sense that I need to know everything about something before I go into it. I research movies, I research books. I need to know everything going into it before I start.
Yeah.
So, like, American Psycho was so huge when it first came out. Like, that's one of the things that I would, if I could time travel, I would time travel to the premiere of that movie, because people were literally so shocked that they were passing out.
Yeah.
Because you watched the first half of that movie and you had no idea what was happening. Like, you were watching this woman coming to, like, first, like, taking this money and coming to so many close calls with police that you genuinely just thought that she was going to get caught by the cops. And then all of a sudden you come to the shower scene and she gets murdered and you're like, what now? Like, that scene when the only character you knew dies, like, that scene was so shocking that people were literally, like I said, passing out. Like, that to me, like, I would love to experience that moment, because that, I don't know that we will ever feel the feeling that those people have felt in their lifetime. Like, that had to be, like, in my mind, the best feeling in the world, but to them, like, the scariest feeling ever. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, so unbelievably shocking and scary, right? So, like, for me, when they, in my mind, when they say, like, the feminist version of American Psycho, like, I think the way the storyline is created, where, like, the first half of this book, you have no idea where it's going. You don't know what's going to happen in this book. Like, you just know, like, you're reading about her psyche, you're learning about it, and you're like, what is this? Like, this ice princess of, like, this girl, her dead grandmother, like, their grandmother's dying, she's an ice princess, blah blah, and then all of a sudden she kills the caretaker and you're like, what's happening now? That's kind of how I see the American Psycho, like, connection, more so than, like, the like, her being the female version of Patrick Bateman, or, like, it being, like, the plot relation of it. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really see it, like, when I read feminist version of American Psycho or feminist version of Patrick Bateman, I just read it more of, like, the way of, in the beginning of this book, you're, like, thinking this is one thing, or you have no idea what's happening, and then all of a sudden it flips on you and you're like, okay, I guess, like, what is happening now? That came out of left field. Like, she just told you had to take your grandmother on life support and you're going to kill her like that?
Wild.
And then string her bones up? Okay, I guess this is where we're going with this.
Yeah.
So, like, that's how I kind of see it, more so than, like, her being Patrick Bateman. Because, like you said, it's completely different in, like, how they execute things. Like their only real similarity is that they kill people. Like
Yeah.
other than that, they're totally different
Yeah.
in their like philosophy, in their methods, in everything else. But I loved it. I loved the plots so much. And I do agree. Like the beginning of it is like so confusing if you go into it not knowing, because you're like, what is happening here? Like, who is this girl and why is she so strange? And why is she like being an ice princess but wants to go to this dark, dingy bar and sit with this Johnny Depp lookalike and some random bartender and just drink pina coladas all day? I don't know. Like,
Wild. So wild. No, I loved it though. It was those little things, those little bits. Like Johnny was hilarious. I love Johnny's character. What would you
Which is another reason why this book was just made for me, because I love Johnny Depp. He was the first man I ever had a crush on, okay?
I love it. What would you
I also love pina coladas.
What would you rate the plot, Jen?
5 out of 5.
I love it. I'm gonna give it a solid 3 out of 5.
No, I'd probably, actually, if I'm being real serious, probably like a 4 out of 5. But yeah, 4 out of 5. I do really.
Wait a minute. Gotta tone it down a sec. No, I mean, if you liked the book, you liked the book. You seem to like the book, Jen. Maybe you should keep it as 5.
We'll go with a 4.5 out of 5.
I like it.
Because there were some things that I didn't like it was slow at parts, but we'll go with a 4.5 out of 5.
No, I agree with that.
I like it a lot. Don't get me wrong, I do like it a lot.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to...
I just have a very hard time giving things 5s, that's all.
That's
really what it comes down to. I have to want to like marry the book in order to give it a 5.
Okay. I love that. I want to move on to the spice, Jen. I want to talk about this.
Right, let's do it.
Let's talk about the spice.
I don't know, because I really liked the ice rink, but you didn't, so...
Fuck, that was fair. Well, okay, well, like, we start off, right, like, I think the first sort of spice that we get is her masturbating while watching a hunting show, also watching porn, and taking down a housewife who is some, like, racist piece of shit. And, like, that's, like, the first kind of time we see her getting turned on, and I honestly was like, okay.
It's like the very beginning.
I fuck with this. I love that
That's
scene.
the opening.
I kind of loved the fact that she was getting off on revenge against someone she had no idea about, and she'd spent months becoming this woman's friend. Months. Yeah. It was great.
And it wasn't like her first time either. Like, she had done this before.
Yeah. Which is so sly. I really loved that part of Maeve's character. I wish we got more of that. Like, I wish we got more of this, like, revenge-seeking bitch online. Like, that was fun.
Yeah.
We definitely could have...
That was a lot of fun.
We could have dragged that part out and made it more... I guess make it make more sense. Like, maybe that could have been the middle section, is that we get to see all this revenge taking place that isn't as consequential as what she ends up doing. I honestly could have read more of that. That would have made me really excited.
True.
Ice rink sex.
Ice rink sex. We kind of talked about it, but I loved that so much because there was the whole walk to the ice rink was all that tension because it was getting like smaller and smaller and they had to get closer and closer and closer to each other, and then they get out there and they're just like, let's do it.
Fucking.
And then it was supposed, like, they were gonna do it on, like, in the hallway, and then she's like, no, I want it on the ice, and he's like, yeah, and then they do it on the ice, which has, like, always been one of my, like, dreams, and then I'm like, what, like, watching it, like, I'm not reading it in a book, but I'm like, I want it, and so I'm, like, living vicariously through them, and then also, like, gagging a little bit because I'm like, ugh, I can picture his tooth and I can't stand the fact that the tooth is in there. And then she pulls it out and I'm living for it because I'm like, yes, it's gone. And you're like gagging because you hate it. And I'm like, yes, the tooth's gone. We can do this now. And I'm like, yeah. And like, I'm just like but I like kind of love the blood. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah.
So like the tooth being gone, I'm like, I know like she puts it in like a pocket or whatever. I'm like imagining it being thrown, which I know did not happen. But like, I also don't hate that she kept his tooth because then, I mean, this has nothing to do with the sex, but then she took it to the bar and she
Yeah.
put it in the little tooth jar.
Yeah, which was
And I like that the bartender kind of gave her a look like, where'd you get that?
yeah, but no question. No question.
No question.
Never ask.
I liked that because it was like a full circle moment there.
Okay, see, I took real offense to the ice rink sex. Like, of all the things, Sass, pick your battles. But I was just like, girl, you are going to get blisters all over your back. And then she does get blisters because she talks about how sore she is. And all I could think about was her skin fucking burning from the ice. And I was like, listen, I love a little pain with, you know, my pleasure, especially when it comes to books. We all know that I have a bit of, you know, I like things a little crazy, but putting your bare skin on ice is where I draw the line, apparently. Such a prude.
One of the best part is I never even thought of that.
Me like having a full meltdown, like her body, her skin's getting burnt by ice, like, and then we've got this fucking tooth hanging out. I was gagging. Not in a good way. Not in like
Me thinking the back's perfectly fine. Even though I read that, I'm like, oh, that like didn't even.
Who cares?
It didn't even come to mind.
So
I'm like, yeah, they're getting done. It's a little wet, but they're fine.
And if you do try to reenact this scene, can you please take like a picnic blanket or like something, or keep your shirt on, please?
I think that time has passed for me. Unfortunately, it's okay though.
Okay. No sex on an ice rink for Jen. You know, you could do it on a lake.
I live in Philly. The water here is not good.
Oh.
We want to avoid all public lakes and rivers around this area.
Alright, don't do that. Here's me thinking of these beautiful little lakes like in the forest. Like I clearly know nothing about where you live. I'm like,
I live in Philadelphia. We don't have forests.
You've got shit trees though. Don't forget, you got them shit.
We do have the shit trees.
And
the shit trees. Well, that's in Jersey. That's over by my parents. There might be a lake. There's a lake over there, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
You know what? The smell of shit while you're fucking at a lake, like how beautiful. Could you think of anything more romantic? Okay, back to the sex. Egg sex.
Yes. Egg sex.
Egg sex. So listen, as much as I don't ever want an egg inside of me, actually I'm gonna talk about something after we talk about the sex. And it is related to food and sex. But I feel like there was something very satisfying about this soft-boiled egg situation.
I'm listening.
It's a textural thing, right? Like, it just felt like it would be nice. Just to, like... I just think it would be texturally... I would never do it. It's not my...
You know what sound just popped right into my head?
What?
I'm not autistic. I'm just a little silly.
I am
but I like the sound of an egg inside of me for texture reasons.
Just imagine you like clench your walls and then it's just like it's actually kind of gross. The more I think about it and the more I visualize it, I don't want yolk on my legs. But like there's something texturally nice about it. A hard egg though, no shell, just soft boiled, nice and easy. I don't even know how you would get it in, to be honest, because an egg is like...
Well, they had the shell, right?
Did
was
they?
The shell?
I thought it was soft. You know what? I've probably read this and then I've gone away and thought, yeah, it's got to be. No, that's why, because she said she didn't want the shell with it. And he said, well, you should do a soft boiled egg because then it's firm enough to push inside of you. Didn't he?
Yeah, you're right.
I thought about this so much. Like, this clearly has
You're
affected.
right. No, you're right.
I'm crazy.
I might have wrote it down. I tried to write down as many of the egg scenes as I could because you and I had like specific conversations about the eggs.
Yeah, because I messaged you being like, what the fuck, Jen? These fucking eggs.
Well, I have chapter 11. Eggs are extremely erotic.
That makes sense. It makes sense. I get it. Wait.
Oh, I don't know if we wrote this, but I wrote down I wanted to talk about the Pretty Princess game.
What's the Pretty Princess?
Did we write that down?
No, what's that?
Yeah, they played when they were going to have the threesome. And they had you don't remember that scene?
Why do I not remember that? I am also Googling right now egg fetish, so just FYI.
When they tied up, it was her and Gideon, and they had the girl from the bar, I think. And they had the Pretty Princess game, which is one of my, again, a book written for me. It was one of my favorite games growing up. And so I was like, oh my God, they're doing a threesome with bondage and playing Pretty Princess. What? My mind is exploding right now.
That scene was fucking crazy. Oh, I think I messaged you being like, not the curling wand.
Yes, that's what it was. It was the curling wand scene. And she was going to put the curling wand into the girl's whatever. And then he was acting like all bored. And then they just leave her. They're like, all right, I won't do it. And put the curling wand aside and then go eat food and leave the girl there. And she's like, what's happening? And then they just let her go.
Yeah. I honestly thought that was going to get so much worse. Like, I really thought she was going to go ahead with it. And I was like, oh God, I don't know if I can handle this. I'm at work right now.
I was I was so scared she was going to put the curling wand into her.
That would have really, like, changed the entire book for me. So I'm kind of glad that she didn't do that. Because I think that would
also, like, I mean, I guess they kind of gaslit her into thinking that it never happened in the first place. But, like, can you imagine if she went to the cops? Like, a normal person would have went to the cops.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I guess that.
I mean, they did kind of gaslight her into thinking, like, she was crazy, so.
Yeah, they were like, we were never going to do that. What's wrong with you? There's a kink that involves eggs, and it's called oviposition kink, or oviposition kink.
Interesting.
And it's a fetish where you're really into the idea of having eggs laid inside of you. That's disgusting.
Interesting.
I really, like, even though this was like, I wouldn't call this like a spicy book. Like, as much as it was like, it had its moments of on-page romance, there actually wasn't that much, like, spice.
No.
So I wouldn't go into this being like, oh, it's going to be a really sexy, spicy book. Like, it's a serial killer, crazy.
Oh, yeah. Totally a horror book. It just had some
moments.
Sex in it.
Yeah. Just happened to have a little crazy sex in it. Did I miss anything else besides Pretty Princess?
No, I think that was it.
Okay, good. I was like, what the fuck is that? But then I remembered it was the curly...
Well, because it really wasn't sex. Like, it was, like, leading to it, but then they didn't actually have it because of him, like, just being, like, bored by it. He was just like,
Yeah, he was like, whatever. This is nothing.
I just really got excited by the Pretty Princess game, to be quite honest. And the fact that they were all wearing, like, plastic jewelry while this is happening. I was dead.
Yeah, wild. I would probably give this one like 2 out of 5 chilies. Like, it's
just,
but
I would say maybe 3.
Yeah.
It's just all right.
All right. The pace.
Yes.
I swear to God, I look back at my notes sometimes. I'm like, yo, what is wrong with you? Basically, what I said in my notes was, this one was a grower, not a shower. So, I think that really tells you everything you need to know about the pace.
Stop it.
I personally think we felt the effects of Maeve's, like, feralness by about 50%. Like, that's when we descended into absolute chaos. So you're going to spend, like, 50% of this book kind of being like, this is a bit weird, this is a bit off, like, what the fuck is going on? And then by 50% of the way through, it's like... Yeah, murder for the sake of saving her grandmother to just absurd murders of her, like her boss and her boss's partner, who also happens to be her boss's boss. Although I really fucking liked that death. I enjoyed that torture. That was great. I hated those characters so much. Like, what was her name?
I don't know.
She was so, like, so... We've all met her before. We've all had a boss like her, and she was just awful. I couldn't stand her, and I loved when she died. It's not like Jess or something. It was something just plain.
I was thinking someone an L. Like Lori or something.
Something stupid.
Liz.
Liz.
Is it Liz?
Maybe. It sounds about right.
Liz
yeah.
adores rules. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like that was a good part of the book was when Liz got murdered, because I really hated Liz. Like, she obviously was so jealous of Maeve and Kate and was like, just this bitter woman. Like, shut up. Glad she got murdered. And, like, obviously, like, the end of this book was very much like American Psycho in the fact that it just went completely insane. Like, that was where I found the American Psycho-ness of this book. So, like, I feel like I read the ending too quickly. Like, I was like, oh, you know, when you're, like, it was so chaotic and you're just, like, reading because you're like, what? I need to know what happened.
What is happening here?
Right. So, like, I think I liked the pace, even though it was slow in the beginning, like, reflecting on it. It is like American Psycho, and that's what I liked about American Psycho, is you have these weird, like, obviously in American Psycho, we've got, like, the fucking business cards, and then... like, it just felt a lot like that when I think back to it. Right. Upon reflection, I really enjoy the pace. So I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 5 again.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to say a 4 because I agree. It had its slow moments, especially like in the beginning, but I loved it because it was like American Psycho, the pacing of it. And I think that's what made it the quote feminist version of American Psycho, was the pacing of it and how it was structured to be that way. So I'm going to definitely stick with the 4 for that.
Yeah, nice. On to our overall ratings. So I really enjoyed this book. I think there are a lot of themes that made it special and easy to read. It gave some seriously funny and absurd slasher vibes, but delved into Maeve's depth and her character in a way that made you feel for her, which I think made the book a lot better for me. I do think parts of this book were rushed, especially the endings, and if you are not looking... Well, if you're looking for a happily ever after, this is definitely not the book for you.
Yeah. Definitely not.
I gave this one a 3 out of 5.
Got it. Understand. So for me, I am on the other end of it. I absolutely loved it. I loved the horror aspect of it. Again, like I said, I think this book was literally written for me. There was so much of this that just felt very directed towards my personality and like my specialized interest, which was a little strange at times, but also like I loved every minute of it. So I do agree that the ending felt a little bit rushed. I wish it was a little bit more fleshed out. But overall, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
I love it.
Yeah.
Aw, that's so good. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. That is it for this week's podcast. We'll see you in a fortnight. And again, make sure you follow our socials to keep up on book club in time for these deep dives. We love having a chat in our comments, so feel free to reach out. See you soon. Love your good girls.
Bye.
Bye.